gotta hold on to what we got. You got each other, and that's a lot more love. Give it a shot. Yes,
Oh my God.
So horrible.
That was so bad. I really feel like this is basically, we're just recording Wayne's World on some local cable access show that only 5 people are going to watch, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So pathetic. Come on, here, you want to hear something cool? I figured out the solo. Kind of. That's how it goes.
Dude.
Great.
Dude.
Awesome.
You need to
Your neighbors are awake right now, right? That's one thing.
When you talk about it, I live in a big ass house and my neighbors are quite a ways away. The only person I'm waking up with is my baby.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because his room is right upstairs and his dad's rocking out downstairs and being obnoxious.
As we always say, you need to stop doing this stupid stuff and go on the road with your rock band. That's where the real action is.
Too much grape juice. Horrible.
Yeah, right. Grape juice.
Oh my God. Yeah. Hey, I went to
your picture. So you're hanging out with Jack Gold, huh?
Yeah, he's a cool dude, man.
I love Jack. I haven't seen him in a long time.
Yeah, he kept thanking me for plugging him, but I said, dude, if you keep like posting cool shit, I'm gonna. Now the kids can't watch this.
Oh well.
That's our goal. Did you know, Wienke? That's what we're gonna try to do. We're gonna try to get a bunch of toddlers watching the show, basically in a cycle, so that we can get these big social numbers. 1 million.
TikTok.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How's it going, Wienke?
Yeah, good.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Yeah, it's going very well. It's there's quite some interesting verticals now, like appearing a bit as killer apps in our ecosystem. So, yeah, happy to see the steady growth, right? And it's the LP1, let's say 40 to 60% growth a year, and it's really getting there. And I think it's nice to see that things are more mature. So we already have 1 million registered devices on the open source platform and also on our commercial platforms. And we really see the strong growth, and specifically also in the US. It's like with regards to we focus mostly on private networks, but you see just in buildings, I think agriculture as well. Places where there's no connectivity, so and a lot of retail and kind of supply chain kind of use cases that are internal, not so much.
Yeah,
right.
Not the macro big old stuff, right? Not quite yet, right? Meaning, global track and trace type stuff.
No, LoRaWAN is now finding its success in these private networks, and we have a system that allows you to connect these private networks and peer who you want to and decide on if you want to have a business model on this peering or not. Just a bit more like the internet works. So you have the internet peering, the packet peering, what we call a packet broker, and other sides you have then these over-the-top, out-of-bound business models, but we're never in between. So that's working out good in that smart city context where you have multiple networks that we're connecting together, and specifically just a lot of like short last mile kind of use cases that need battery powered devices and a very, very simple provisioning protocol. And that's where it just competes with Wi-Fi and it typically wins specifically on the security provisioning Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, like I mentioned, I went to my first in-person event, and by the way, in-person just kicks booty all over the place. It is the best.
Yeah.
This virtual stuff. Sorry, anybody who thinks that we're going to be spending the rest of our lives doing this crap. No, I want to hang out with you guys in Amsterdam and have beers and drink grape juice,
That's good.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, we're gonna have our first physical event again in January in Amsterdam, the Things Conference, and we're looking very much forward to that. But I also see a lot of positives around it that we're gonna do a virtual event in parallel. We're not gonna do a hybrid event, so there's gonna be two separated events. But we've also seen but if you do that well and you just really curate the content well, these virtual events worked out for us because they were very functional and technical driven.
Yeah.
So you could really learn something, and then that really worked out. So we were a bit lucky because we were there, but can't wait to be in person as well.
Absolutely. I attended you had an event in August. And so I was there as much as I could. And I've had to watch some of the YouTube videos afterwards just because of time zone differences and things like that. But that was a really good event you guys put on in August.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Was it the summer school? Was it?
Yeah, the summer school. Yeah. I bought the equipment ahead of time that I was, you had the list of things you wanted us to buy, and then followed along. So yeah, that was cool.
See,
how did you like the mentor sessions? Sorry, how did you like the mentor sessions? Like, was it? Oh, you were in a different time zone, right? We did it in the EU.
I was in a different time zone, and so I just saw bits and pieces of it live, and then mostly had to watch the YouTube videos later. Yeah.
Awesome! Brilliant. Thanks. Yeah, great feedback. Thank you.
Yeah. It's good. You got to start somewhere. There's a lot of people that are new to that space, and it's good for you to help teach them. Beginners, Yeah,
we're going to do it now every year. Feedback was amazing. And it's also very inclusive in the sense that whatever you're in India and maybe you're on a smaller budget or if you're in Seattle and you just want to learn, like it was super diverse global community.
Yeah. I bought a bunch of gear from Rack Wireless, I think.
Yeah. We made a partnership with them. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
That's cool stuff. That's you're doing a great service. I mean,
we're not there yet, right? So that's so one of the things that we still see in LP1 is that the likelihood of being successful is between 10 and 20%, and we still feel that we're still not even that we're for sure not there yet by sharing knowledge that just at least like prevents you to go into directions where we already seen that you will be failing. And the Things Conference is really going to be around that. We really want to, after 6 years of seeing so much LP1 failure, we really know that there are a few tracks where you want to be on. And sometimes it's also not even technical, right? So we created this matrix where we see some customers we have customers, for instance, or had customers they had very strong business case but didn't have the technical competence. Sometimes it's all the way around. Sometimes they don't have both, and but there's so much stuff that needs to be aligned also internally in the organization. So the Things Conference, we set ourselves an objective that every visitor will go home with a digital transformation PowerPoint presentation that they will give to their team or their boss or their customer on Monday. So that's our promise. So everybody in our company, like in the conference team, so we have a separate conference team. The rest is just, of course, just doing the business. So we're really going to focus on that. It's like you're gonna your tangible result is this PowerPoint.
Super smart. Because just a bunch of geeks in a garage building crap is not going to move the needle on anything. The most important thing is the application, and the technology needs to be fitted with to those opportunities, that those applications present. And they have to enable them. So that's smart. That's good. That forces them to think through, do we really have something here? Or are we just geeking out or dorking out? And that's worthless.
It happens too many times. Like that you have this workshop and then you say, so why are you talking to tech guys like us? Go talk to your customer, because your biggest problem is not really us. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Your biggest problem is your customer.
Think about all those great engineers out there have wonderful talents cobbling things together from software and hardware, but they have a very difficult time tuning into, well, how is this stuff going to even matter? They really do struggle with it. And, I was yesterday, I attended the Qualcomm event, the Smart Cities Acceleration program. It's great. But I think there's a lot of people who are still in that state. And it's amazing because after all these years with smart cities, it's like, man, you guys still here talking about like the technology, and then a couple of mayors getting up on stage, just making political points rather than, really providing anyone any level of comfort that there's going to be investment in technologies to better our cities. That's kind of sad. You know what I'm saying? So the technology community still has a long way to go to help anybody in their prospective markets to understand the value of digital enablement, innovation, all these things. They just don't understand it well.
Is that what the Qualcomm event was all about? Smart cities?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really good. That was my first time attending, and they put on a great program. And they had Magic Johnson there, which was really cool. I mean, I grew up just loving that first they were the second. They were the first Lakers dynasty, and
they dominated the '80s.
Oh man, with Kareem and Jamal Wilkins. I mean, that's the basketball I knew.
James Worthy.
Oh
man, those guys were so good. It felt like the NBA Finals every year during the '80s was Lakers versus the Celtics. Larry Bird.
Larry Bird was a monster. He was.
Yeah, those were crazy times, man. That's good. I was growing up in Houston, and the Rockets made it through a couple of times. Hakeem Olajuwon and all those guys. Yeah, but it was tough because it would always be the Western Finals would be the Rockets and the Lakers to go ultimately always to play the Celtics, and then kind of later on, Detroit Pistons started getting good.
And then Ralph Sampson versus
Sampson, the Twin Towers. Ralph Sampson and Hakeem Olajuwon.
And Vicky's going, what the hell are these guys talking about? Let's talk about football.
I do know, of course, Magic Johnson. So that's and I know the LA Lakers, of course.
He's kind of geeky too.
Really,
he kind of has. I was like going, I always remember his interviews way back in the day. I'm going, okay, well, he's not a very technical dude, and all of a sudden he gets up on stage and he's like understanding everything and, using technical words in a correct way. And I'm like, wow, okay, magic.
That's cool.
Come along, man.
Our partner in crime on this show, Stephanie Atkinson, I'm going to say a couple of years ago, she did an event. It's the last time I saw you in La Jolla, where she put on a smart city event in conjunction with the Qualcomm event that was going. And I flew down to...
we hung out.
Yeah, she and I did a presentation on sustainable cities. And then like the next day, everybody at this event, she had brought in, lots of people, mayors and city, people from different cities who are working on smart cities. And then they all went over to the Qualcomm campus the next day. So clearly they've been doing this a while. I saw a blurb just talking about a lot of Qualcomm verticals, as if they have an IoT platform, it looks like. And they talked about all the verticals that their platform addresses.
Yeah.
I saw a blurb. Someone was sending an email around in Ericsson late last night. Actually, some guys in Sweden. It's like, did you know about this? And I'm like, I knew they were doing smart city stuff, but it looked like they had a bunch. Kind of like when I think of IoT companies, kind of like Samsara and some other ones where they really went deep on lots. And so, of course, it was their own press release. It was. I've never heard of any customers or analysts talking about Qualcomm being a player. But who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, they're getting in the game sort of loosely. Loosely and tightly at the same time, because they're starting to go to market with their ecosystem partners, right? And so they're trying to make something instead of a bunch of talk, right? They're making a push toward now winning contracts with their ecosystem.
And what kind of use case is this? There's cameras, or is it parking sensors?
All the typical stuff. And they're kind of hunting for large transformational programs, not just like, smart metering, basically a whole laundry list of smart city type initiatives that can be supported by we call it an easy button platform, right?
And are they also pushing their own private network the deployments, or is it all through cellular?
Well, they're not going to be hosting the network. What they do is they enable their customers to use partners or one of their partner companies to come in and establish the network, and then they find a way, because there's a lot of different ways that people want to host a private network, right?
Yeah.
They basically facilitate that and then get folks using the 5G stuff.
Yeah.
And then
in Europe, a lot of cities have started this a smart city with LoRaWAN because it's so low barrier. And we always joke that a smart city in Europe is like one base station, 2 parking lot sensors, and a press release, right? and then it stops, right? So there was like a budget of 10K, and then the budget is gone, and then the excitement is gone as well. But what we of course try to do with the Things Network is to create these cities communities. So what we now see is that it's coming. It went over the hype, and it's now going through this disappointment phase. But what we're now seeing, what's coming back up, is that we're saying, we have these communities, and you have and what we then call, I don't know if it's actually a thing in the US, but we call it triple helix. It's the government, businesses, and citizens. So it's like all working together, and then they added a foundation education. And what we're saying is that we already have the inclusion of the citizens, which is for a government almost the hardest task, to find adoption and acceptance and inclusion, because there's always a lot of resistance. I would say, because LoRaWAN, you can easily, it's a connectionless network, right? So these devices just send a message. The more gateways you have, the more times you get the message. It just creates redundancy. So we're now working with cities to say, here's the citizen network. Let's say small city, 20 gateways. They already set it up. You can see it on the thingsnetwork.org. And then the government comes in and said, I want to do some parking lot sensors. And then the utility company comes in, said, I want to do smart metering. And actually you can merge all these networks and just make them all work together. And also it gives a very good argument for cities to say, we're spending this taxpayer money, but we're really trying to create an inclusive, let's say, real Internet of Things. So that's finding some traction. And of course, it's only within the niche of what LP1 can do, or even what LoRaWAN can do. Right. It's not, it's not the high bandwidth kind of stuff. Yeah.
But one of the key takeaways I got out of this whole thing was, because it wasn't just entirely 5G centric. There's this whole. I think there's going to be this emerging trend. Wienke, you and I talked about it before I started playing Bon Jovi terribly, and but none of this connectivity stuff, almost nothing, is either or. Because if you're going into a blue field situation, or brownfield, blue field, where the hell did I get that?
Where is a blue field?
I have no idea. In the friggin' middle of the ocean is where.
Some toxic.
No, actually, that's where Wienke is. Wienke is in a blue field.
He does have a blue background.
He's sitting in a chair in a blue field.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm going to lose my point here. Okay, shut up, guys. I'm going to try to make my point. Oh, by the way, to our audience, we're going to be talking about LoRa and, I guess, heterogeneous connectivity. But it's like a heterogeneous environment. And then you have all these different use cases where different connectivity protocols and modalities are the best. And there's no real, and, you know, differing economics, different levels of simplicity. I mean, obviously 5G is still down the path of trying to figure out, well, how do we make the stuff cheap and scaled down to, let's say, a smart city level or you know, an indoor building level. And so there's all these options. So it's not an either or. I think, especially with complex systems like a city, you're probably going to be looking at a lot of different technologies, a lot of different devices, old and new. But to your point, Wienke, at some point, the way you're going to drive some fit for purpose adoption is that interoperability of some sort, that integration, right? The integratability, if that's even a word, that's important. And I know Rob talk about that a lot, right? Because I know Thunderstruck does a lot of integration stuff at different levels. But even that integration at different levels, you have to have certain things that can broker up and down the stack dynamically where it's needed, depending on the workload or the application, right? Wow.
Yeah, we're not there yet. Yeah.
It's a the reality is no matter what company's marketing department says the deal is, it's a heterogeneous world. We have to work with all kinds of different weird things out there, different use cases, different technologies, and there's one size will not fit all. And so, but spending all this summer out in farmland, and sometimes I've been lucky and I have cellular coverage, but a lot of times I won't.
Yeah.
So something like LoRa has got to fill in those gaps for sure. You know.
Or even overlapping, right? Because if you look at certain types of applications, it might be a mix of, like, let's say a certain element, let's say an edge computing element that is powered and fixed somewhere, it's central, but then you might have a number of, you might couple that with multiple connectivity options to support different types of endpoint devices that support the solution, right? Because some of the stuff can be, might require batteries and longevity and endurance out in the edge, further out in the edge of the solution context. But then you might have other things that require critical connectivity. So you're going to have that blend. I mean, dude, it's like, why either or? If you're an architect, you're going to look at all the options to enable whatever the hell it is that you're trying to do, the application, right? And so maybe that might be one of the things is, like, you guys don't just think in isolation of LoRa and LoRaWAN, you look a little bit more broader, because sometimes that can be the limiting factor, is that you guys just look at opportunities that are pure play LoRa applications versus something a little bit more holistic, right? Saying, hey, look.
Yeah, I think we have always had the approach, because when we started 5 years ago, we saw that LP1 was massively immature and it was really hard to build a solution. So we started to build and developer platform just to solve first that. And when you start that, you actually are trying to solve the developer's problem. And then you must be, and then hopefully 1 out of 10, the developer is also solving a real problem. So then you have 10% chance that you're going to create a business. And now we have 150,000 developers on the platform. So actually, that's the way how we get in our business. But so I think the majority of our gateways are cellular backed. Definitely, maybe not in the non-commercial open source platform, but in our what the Things Industries platform. It's basically just the standard to do it with that. We even have a partnership now with the Deutsche Telekom around LTM powered 8-channel LoRaWAN gateways, and that just solves a bunch of headaches, which is great. And so whatever you put this technology, sometimes it's on top, sometimes it's below, sometimes it's beside of it. and that works perfectly well. We even have a customer. We had a logistics conference on last Friday or the Friday before. I think the Friday before, and we have a customer. It's called Tailor, and they have a LTM LoRa hybrid device, and it decides based on where it is, where it's either going to use LTM or LoRa. And then the question is, with regard to integration, what you just mentioned is that how are we going to harmonize that? Are we going to make adapters of like lightweight M2M to LoRaWAN, or lightweight M2M over LoRaWAN, or LoRaWAN over LTM? And then, then it's, I think our task as an industry is to make sure that it doesn't result in massive headache. And in the end, the good thing about LoRaWAN and LPWAN is that the data points are very small. And we always say that when your data ends in an IoT platform, then you've done something wrong, right? When your data needs to end in an ERP, changing a business process, modifying a work list, modifying an alert, or but it needs to be even like triggering an actuator. But as long as there's no dashboard, you have a very good IoT application. And
just say no to dashboards.
Don't say no to dashboards. And I always say people ask me then, what kind of IoT platform should you use? Like the only IoT platform is the best IoT platform is your existing ERP, and just open your AWS and open your Azure. They're there, or open your Balena, right? They have all these great tools. And
or your Excel sheet. Don't forget the Excel sheet.
Yeah, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. You know what I told the Qualcomm guys is because they showed one of the deployments of their IoT suite. I said, wow, these dashboards look really great, but there's so much stuff on here, like 10,000 alerts. You're going to have to hire more people. Is like what actually has to happen in order for there to be business value. The first order is automation and getting to some level of autonomy. If your goal is to populate a dashboard,
you failed.
Yeah.
I don't know if you failed. You haven't gotten there.
It's comfortable. Yeah. It's certainly where people have started because they've accustomed to dashboards and things like that. But to Wienke's point, what's the whole point of IoT is to get people out of the way and fully automate and have a living system. And so you should never see any user interface.
But let me disagree here. Let me disagree because I've been working with companies where they didn't have any ERP, for example. So the dashboard of the IoT platform were their ERP and was the interface, for example, for the support team and things like that. So I mean, it depends. So it's not like But
don't you think that generating an email with a PDF or generating email is better than a dashboard? Don't you think that generating a dashboard and sending them an email
imagine that you're a support agent and you got a call. I have the device 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you help me? I don't know. Should I go to Gmail? And no, that doesn't work. So if you want a reporting tool, yes, of course.
Yeah, but then it's the same what Rob is saying, right? Then the critical application is the dashboard. So of course, like when the critical business application is a dashboard application, then that's right. I think the point here is that okay, once the data enters like your ERP, so anything around planning or managing your business. That's right. I think the point here is that the data should end up in that critical process. And part of the critical process that you're subscribing is, okay, the critical process is that you should be answering a support call within 5 minutes and solve it within 10. Then the dashboard, of course, is part of the critical process.
Maybe it's just automating the dispatch and then, providing the personalized or the relevant filtered data that person's going to need. But I mean, some of these dashboards is like, holy crap, this is like so much information. Even navigating through it would take numbers of steps, and it assumes that there's going to be a person in front of it to orchestrate and manage and facilitate the control or the issue resolution. You know what? It's just maybe we're like, if that, and it seems to be conventional thinking. That's the way people, because then you can view it in a dashboard. It's like, I don't want to friggin' view it on a dashboard. I want this shit to just do stuff automatically.
Yeah, and it's also not that hard, right? So when I have these kind of a conversation as well, I said just use your low code, no code platform. And then they say, yeah, but we don't have a low code, no code platform. I say you do, but you just don't know, because you just have to log in your AWS or your Azure, and they just gave it to you over the course of the last 3 years. So just turn it on and then figure it out, because we're getting into this what they call the citizens developer kind of phase in IT and IT ops. But yeah, it's every bigger company has a low code, no code platform. Probably most of them don't know they have it.
Yeah, it's called Excel, the old school stuff. Excel. Marc already.
Excel is your dashboard. It's your low code platform. I love that. We saw the rise of citizen developers actually happen in the 90s with Access. And all of a sudden, there's Access databases all over the place. And these drag and drop forms. Yeah, FileMaker Pro. Yeah, you're right. That's a good time. But
every era has that.
They do. I get what you're saying, Marc, and everything. I think we had this dream of IoT being tens of millions or billions of devices sending telemetry and some system making decisions based on KPIs, analytics, whatever, and then taking actions.
That's true.
Because the thinking was IoT was going to be so big, there's no way that humans would be able to manage such a giant system. I guess we're not there yet. I know we're working that way. We'll get to Skynet.
And maybe we can say, like Groucho Marx, adaptation. Like, if you don't like my KPIs, I have other KPIs on my dashboard. So.
A lot of this is just going to be. I mean, here's the other thing: is Rob, you always say people are just making too big of a deal of AI. I totally agree with you. And that's one of the things that I was talking to Qualcomm people about, is like, because the topic of AI always comes up. One of the analysts is always going to bring it up. But, there's AI that's being used for cognition, system cognition. So meaning you're applying AI for computer vision to enhance sensor capabilities and pushing that intelligence down. But, when you talk about automation, that's a different thing. And a lot of these things can be done rule-based. So, the ability to sit there and create sort of behavioral templates, those are things that can get us a long way. But that has nothing to do with AI. It's just very simply, kind of Excel spreadsheet-ish kind of way, codifying some simple decisions. And those simple decisions scale out a hell of a lot more than all this crazy AI stuff. And so, anyway, I think that's when you try to go to market with the connectivity, there still needs to be some degree of automation in the equation or in the storyline to sell this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Visibility is awesome.
And it's step one.
It's step one, like we always say.
But you're right. Customers are asking for automation. They want to keep automating more and more things. And so we have to get there. Hey, it's David.
What's up, Mr. Smartass?
Hey, hi, David.
Hey.
We're talking about cellular low-power connectivity. I think you're very
Your favorite topic.
I'm out.
Verizon and Ericsson are out.
You're supposed to say how awesome NB-IoT
is. It is.
I'm just glad to hear that you're using it for backhaul on your gateways, though, Wienke. So
Exactly.
Oh yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, that's exciting development, and also because of the indoor penetration features, right? So it makes sense to do that, and yeah, I mean, as I said, right, there's, and I think in our commercial deployments, there's literally barely any gateways that don't have a cellular backhaul or have a cellular backup, and you now have like lots of these MVNOs that could provide good plans, so you can either use as a backup or as a main backhaul. So that's it's really becoming a more like LoRa is becoming a sort of like a almost like one of the killer IoT apps for cellular, right? Because it's just spreading that, and who knows? And as I said, right, like if the device management platforms of cellulars and cellular operators and the systems integrators mature, and we can connect lightweight M2M and emulate LoRaWAN devices behind the LoRaWAN gateway, which then acts basically as a bridge, you get this agnostic approach to these devices. So that could be a nice convergence over the next few years.
Yeah.
So do they go to the Things Industry website, or where do they go to when they want to find sensors and gateways that are already pre-built from different vendors to build solutions instead of doing it themselves?
AliExpress, no? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you can also go to AliExpress. No, you can go to Things Industries. We have a few preferred vendors, and then we have these gateways where we can help you out and have it like completely serviced. And we launched our device repository, and we now have around 500 devices in there. And that just smooths out the provisioning massively, because the configuration parameters that these devices have are quite complex. So what you now see is that that was our objective, right? To make sure that sticking it all together really is smoothed out. And while it is integrated, it's not fixed, but it's still an open technology, but the integration is super smooth. Yeah. And that has been quite a disciplined approach from our side, because you see this natural tendency for companies like us that over the years they tend to go vertical, because you have to resist the money. But we've been doing quite good horizontally because we're so global. 60% of our revenue comes from the US. A lot of customers in Asia, Australia, of course, also in Europe. So we're trying to make sure that you can build your own vertical in your fragmented market, but make sure you don't have to call the support or email the support of the device maker, because you're missing this little setting that's now all in one repository. And same for gateway. So sticking it all together has never been so easy. So that's good.
Because if I walk through, like I'm a customer, or I've been spending a lot of time out in farms this summer, and let's say I want to use LoRa, and I go to your website, I can find devices that have different sensors on them, like temperature, soil moisture, whatever, things like that. And I know that LoRa, kind of like NB-IoT, is some bizarre, weird way it sends data. It's not IP based like most people are used to. And so I know it has to go to a gateway. And so maybe you guys have, here's a gateway to capture that data. Does your software stack or whatever that's already on the gateway, does it handle translating the data
so basically what it's doing,
IP-based packet?
Yeah, so the gateway is actually very dumb. So it just demodulates the chirp spectrum signal, LoRa, and then it forwards it to what our LoRaWAN network server, and after that it becomes IP, and then we have MQTT, webhooks, Azure IoT, AWS IoT, all kinds of integrations, and after that it can go then to your ERP or to your low-code, no-code platform, and that's basically what we do. And then there's some other features. So there's a joint server. So there's a key management system attached to that, but also interoperable interfaces. So it can also connect to other networks. Gets very complex, like a bit complex now. But it's basically, if you want to do that thing yourself. So it's typically, I think in the US, we see a lot of our customers doing agricultural kind of solutions, because it's just easy for them to put a network somewhere where it isn't. And that's basically how it works. So and these gateways are not really hard to configure. So they come almost pre-integrated. And the hardest part is really the physical installation. And of course, we have all kinds of nice solutions with Belina, where you just push the software directly when you provision it in Bolina. So that's also nice.
And actually, something really interesting is that one thing that you did really well is that you try to decrease as much as possible the price of the gateway.
Yeah.
So to try to democratize, that anyone can create their own network, right? For as minimum as possible of a budget.
Yeah, we now have our cheapest gateway. It's a Wi-Fi backhaul gateway, so it never gets us any better than your Wi-Fi, but sometimes that's perfect for use cases. It's now $70 or maybe $79. You can get it on. Yeah, so then that's also quite, and that's also you can also manage that through our platform. So that is and we'll manage the firmware over their updates, but that's an MCU based device. It's a very smart thing that we were able to white label, and so getting started is super easy. And of course, we're working on a hardware product called the generic node. So we're working on a IoT device boilerplate, which it's not so much of a reference design, but it has all the design patterns which a traditional hardware maker doesn't think of. So it's a genericnode.com. We're going to launch the first 500 in October. But what we did is we designed a hardware device thinking like software and cloud people, and thinking about the total cost of ownership instead of thinking about the BOM. And that's a really, really bad idea. So and it's super challenging, but we just we now finally embedded all these design patterns. But it's like, just to give you an example, is that we wanted to use standard batteries because we want, if it's in an enterprise, there's always these AA batteries or AAA batteries lying around, but these exotic lithium, small size things, they're not there. But you need to think about that. Somebody from the facility management team should be able, after 3 years, to replace the batteries. And that is maybe just a line on your workforce management planning, while the other one would be sending in IT ops. So we have for a few of these other solutions. But also there again, we try to see where we can increase maturity in the ecosystem.
Dude, I think we need to come up with an episode called Beware of X as a Service. I mean, I think, no, seriously, I love that you brought that up because it's so, you have these people running around going, you gotta have to do everything as a service. Everything is going to become as a service. Dude right over there knows how difficult as a service is and what you need to do in order to number one, deliver the service, but number two, to pre-calculate that it's actually going to be profitable or a good business to get into, right?
And how to get that as a service, what everybody of guess, like you think it's fancy as a service, the things that the person that listens says, damn, additional OPEX, right? So if you don't really understand, not a subscription. Or
they think that there is no CapEx for some reason. There's no. It's all OPEX. It's like no.
Somebody's going to have to pay in advance.
People who don't know finance.
Finance.
They know how to do all technical stuff, but they don't know business model and they don't know financial structures or cost structures. So
I want to keep sticking on the thread that I was on though.
Sorry.
So you said a couple of things. One of the things you said is once it gets to the gateway, it's going to talk to your network or talk to one of your servers. What if I don't want it to talk to, if I'm doing a private system out on a farm where there's no connectivity and I have no expectation of being able to, you know what I mean? I'm trying to figure out
Marc isn't exactly. So Marc just created a solution for you. Take it away, Marc.
Just call me if you want that. Just call me. No, I mean the amazing thing of the things network and I don't know how to call you actually.
The thing stack. So the software
the
piece is called the thing stack.
No, but I don't know if you're gonna kill the things network name or not. So I'm a bit confused still about that. But yeah, so the things industry has made open source the things stack, so you can install all the services that you need on a device or on the cloud or whatever you need. In a really simple way. There are the instructions online. And actually, just to shameless plug, I made like a Bolina the things stack. Well, I didn't make. A developer from the Linux community made it. Jose Perez made the things stack network server. That means that you can have on a Raspberry Pi all the things stack. So you can have your own private the things stack and LoRaWAN network, whatever you want. And the nice thing is that you can put a LoRa concentrator on the top of a Raspberry Pi and run all the stack that you need, the gateway service and the LoRa, the things stack as well in there. So you can have a complete private network that is also a gateway and even can be offline. So you can run all the things stack software offline.
Okay.
In your place, connecting with an MQTT endpoint on your space or whatever. So because there is a community edition, this is completely doable, and I'm sure that now Wienke can refer as well to the industrial solutions on that.
So for Rob, so in this typically in agricultural use cases where you might not have a continuous backhaul. And maybe like the only interested person in the data is also on that site.
Yeah.
Then running that on locally is perfectly possible.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was not my intent to try to cut the things industry out of a money making opportunity here. I was just thinking of this.
We are open source, so we're really much used to being cut out of a revenue stream.
So don't open that thing of open source. Well, actually, I'm open.
Yeah, but, I was just kind of thinking practically. Sometimes I may not be able to reach your network or your server, and that's all I was worried about. Is how do I want to use the technology? I just want to make sure that it works in weird scenarios.
Yeah, so the only thing that complicates it, but we also have a solution for that, is that sometimes you don't want to have distributed key management. So what we have created a solution into for shipping, where these network servers run and the network servers run on ships, and for the devices to join, they have to be in a port, and they have to. So then at least you can make sure that your keys are not on the Raspberry Pi, right? Because the Raspberry Pi probably doesn't have an HSM, and so then you can do the KMS, what we call the join server centralized, and then you only, of course, you have the keys on the Raspberry Pi, but these are never the root keys, and these are the derivatives. So
that's interesting.
So that could also be
Okay.
Yeah, for logistics, that's interesting. If it's, for instance, if you run the whole network on a truck, and you just, you wanna centralize that key management. Yeah, that's super interesting.
Let me ask another question about working with a LoRaWAN, like one of your devices using your technology. So, like when I'm building IP-based endpoints and devices, and I'm sending commands to them, and I'm not talking major stuff. I'm just like saying, I want to change the frequency or the interval. Like, how often is it sending me telemetry about the temperature, humidity, or whatever? Is there a way for me to do that over LoRa to update the device so it changes its behavior?
Yeah, that sounds good. So that's what we tell in our summer school, but they that's a joke. But this class A, when they send over, you can send a confirmed uplink, and it leaves a window open, and you can actually send a bit back, and you can also give that a bit of a payload. And you can also just have class B and C, and these are really for receiving data. But typically, if you want to have some configuration back, you feed that into the in the confirmed uplink, as far as I know.
Okay. All
so
right.
what kind of is it like changing a threshold, or it's like changing an interval, or changing?
Yeah, just something simple. Yeah, because so a lot of people live in a different world, maybe, where they're building stuff on IP-based devices, and they're accustomed to writing software for smartphones and other things, and so that's all similar to them. And so when they're building software where it's using internet protocol, TCP/IP, and some wire protocol over that, even if they're doing something as simple as REST and it's request response, they send telemetry through request, and the response could have return values saying, "Hey, you're sending me data once per minute. Now I want you to send it once every second. Just simple stuff like that.
Rob, your question is applicable to any communication technology. So bidirectional communication, it's also very tricky on cellular connectivity, for example, or on Wi-Fi or another. So how do you send data to a device? So I think LoRa or the LP1 as well, Sigfox and other technologies that are LP1 solve this very well. But for example, I'm struggling helping friends on doing bidirectional communication on cellular connectivity, for example, how to do it securely.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Just to let you know, the stuff I've been doing in the farms this summer has been on LTE-M devices, and we're just doing REST. And so it's just sending JSON to tell me it's telemetry, and it's request response. The response is I send JSON back to the device.
Okay.
It's software that I wrote that's running on that device. And the software receives the JSON and goes, oh, I see you want me to change this and change that and blah, blah, blah.
So with LoRa, it's as Wienke explained, it's a little bit similar. What you do when you send a message, when you are class A, you have a window of time that you are waiting because the data goes to the gateway and then the gateway ship it to the network server. So if the network server has in the queue a message for you, you leave this window open to see if the server sends you data back.
Okay.
And then this data goes to the gateway that is in the area nearby you, and then the gateway says, this device has still the window open, so I send it to you.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more over-engineered than what you said, but yeah.
Okay.
It saves power, so that's
Marc,
the whole.
Is there any flexibility when I send a message to the gateway to change a parameter? If at the time I send it, either I've missed the window or there are some other issues that prevent the message from arriving when I send it. Is there such thing as some like automatic messaging queue so that the next available time that it can go through, my message gets delivered to the gateway? Is that how it works?
And Marc, probably you know better.
No, but you know better than me. Actually, my only experience with these fails, it's on Sigfox, and it worked very well. On LoRa, I didn't have this problem that I missed the window of the downlink.
Okay. And the problem arises with downlink when you are going into more macro cell kind of deployments, and that's typically where not the strength of these. Yeah, just like Sigfox and just like LoRa is that when a cells get really big and it's trying to act like a cellular network while it's not really made for that, then you're just hitting the limitations of the technology. So typically, if you go into macro cells, you just really should focus on uplink and just be happy that your smart metering measurement is there. And if it's not, then you just wait for tomorrow. But don't expect any further quality of service. Yet when you're, for instance, in a restaurant or in a room and you're talking about tens of meters, then you can seek these boundaries of the technology and try to challenge it. But I think our experience with LP1 and with a lot of connectivity technologies, they're being sold as as the boundary, like at the boundaries of what are the specs and the field where you can actually make something production ready is not even a third of that size because you can't stretch anything in production to its boundaries because you just don't have the margin. So I think the main answer is here that don't expect too much of the downlink.
That's fair. And now sticking to that same example. In scenarios, this is when I joined. You guys were talking about doing backhaul over LT, over NB-IoT. Does it change anything if I have cellular-based backhaul in context of being able to deliver the message to a LoRa device, or does it not? Or does the backhaul not really change anything?
Yeah. So these networks have let's say round trip time limitations. So and if you have when you're on 3G networks, then it gets tricky. So but if you're on proper 4G and you have a proper 4G modem, I remember that we had more of these issues 5 years ago than we see them having them right now, you just need to use the technology where it's good for, and I think you should have to accept that. That the companies and the use cases that we're helping, missing a temperature measurement, maybe on a radio, so just missing a message from a temperature logging is not that hard, because what these device makers created is also a queue on the application layer as well. So the next message they send, they build in this redundancy on their application layer. They work around it, and then you're getting into this 99% anyhow. So that's one. Adding gateways is very cheap, right? So
that's fair.
Even if you would need that quality of service, it's really easy to build redundancy.
Nice. Well, we you guys don't have to worry about 3G in the US. We've got like another 18 months to go. And it's still getting shut down. So there's that.
Okay. That's good.
Oh man.
I have a hard question again for Wienke. I always love to give hard questions to him. But yeah, you're getting successful on the things industry. So what's the secret to be successful on the IoT?
So a few things. So really keep it simple. So reduce scope, because it's easy to accrue more. And what you see if you're massively VC backed, and nowadays it's crazy with the funding rounds that you see, is that you really lock yourself into only chasing the big deals. And unfortunately, a lot of this IoT success boils up ground up. So what you're going to do then typically is, and I think if you look at IoT sales, I think the best advice I could give anyone in IoT sales is heal yourself from being starstruck by Fortune 500 companies. So, but I've seen gone very wrong also in our company. Somebody emails you, they have the end of the email address as a top level domain of a Fortune 500 company, and everybody just starts jumping on a customer. And then after a year, it seems it's like, it's a large company, it's a small opportunity. And so you have to be really, really, like, your lead qualification needs to be top notch and be very seasoned and been very critical who you're going to support into growing. So I think we just have been through this many of failures. And the other one, I think what we try to focus on keeping horizontal and jump on this low code, no code wagon. And we were just talking about as a service subscription from a sales perspective, but on the other side, somebody sees it at OpEx. I think what's really important that you have to remember when Netflix launched, like basically you could get the world of movies for these $10 a month. So that you can only sell a subscription where you have a significant business case. They start with 10x. So what we created is a pricing model where we truly believe that we're at 10% of the OpEx that you would spend otherwise if you would do it yourself. And we can prove that. So we can prove that when you start with us with 1,000 devices, you pay $200 a month. And we know that if you're at that scale, you would need at least half or one FTE. When you go into 20,000, you pay with us around $2,000 a month. And then we know that for 20,000, you already start to get multiple FTE, maybe even in multiple time zones. So I think that's the other one, that your subscription model has to be such a significant no-brainer towards your as a service model towards doing it yourself. So that's I think another thing that we've learned. And the other one, just keep it real and just really not oversell and just try to
I like that last one.
Did he say no oversell? Is that what he said? Oh my God.
That's not the sometimes when we sell, like, there's we have 60% of our business in the US, and the cultural business difference in sales in EU and US is that in EU, if you're overselling, you're being seen as a loudmouth, fast, and if you don't deliver, then you're being punished very hard. My experience in the US, in some regions, is also more is that you have to be a bit more confident, and not oversell, but be confident. So, but still, I think in the end, everybody just likes you to deliver on your promise, wherever you're in the world. It's like a very universal thing. So don't screw up.
Yeah.
Don't screw up.
Yeah.
There you go. Wow.
That was good. Good setup, Marc.
What the hell happened? Why is this AI so jacked up? See that?
Oh, if you have, just put police lights on your mug and it will be seen better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
what a smart ass. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Who's going to take us out? Let's do it in Espanol again. Either of you guys on the bottom or top or whatever. One of you guys. You could do it in a Barcelonian accent or a Spanish accent. Friggin' a Dominican Republican accent. Or you want to do it in Dutch? Vienke?
All right, take us out.
Let's get another language. Yeah.
Bedankt iedereen voor het kijken. Het was mij genoeg om hier weer bij de IoT Coffee te zijn. En we zien jullie volgende keer. See you.
Bye. What did he say?
I love it.
No, I said something nice.
He said we suck.
What am I doing?
He said it with a smile. So you know what's legit. He was smiling the whole time.
He sucks. Don't trust cellular.
Nobody knows.
Guys.
Nobody speaks Dutch in the world anyhow.
I heard something about KPN, but I didn't quite catch it. So I'll listen to the recording later.
Yeah.
Google Translate. Okay, guys.
Bye.
Vienke, so
Thanks
good to have
having
you
me.
back, man.
Talk to you soon.
Come on.
Bye.
Adios.